Learning how to drive without assists in F1 2021 may seem daunting, but can become easy with the right approach. But why turn them off though? In most racing games, assists are there to help players who struggle with driving their car. This is fine, and if F1 is more fun for you with some assists turned on, leave them on. That being said, it's possible to improve your lap times and beat faster cars by learning how to drive with a few of them turned off. Driving becomes more complicated and it's easier to make mistakes, but on the flip side, you have far more control over the car itself. You also don't have to turn off every assist at the same time. Some are easier to master than others, so let's focus on the easy ones first. Depending on what race style you're using, you may not be able to change the assist settings in F1 2021 at all, so let's take care of that first. If you're playing on casual, switch to standard, and you'll see all of the settings you can change. There's even presets that suggest what ones to turn off first. Auto DRS automatically opens the rear wing whenever you're allowed to do so, though by switching it off you can now choose to delay the activation in tricky corners. This can be useful if you're driving without traction control, as opening the rear wing reduces rear grip and may cause you to slide. Next up, we've got the steering assist, which attempts to steer the car for you in order to keep you on the track. This will typically keep you on the road, but you may find yourself fighting its suggestions sometimes, and switching it off will make you go faster. Braking assist does a similar thing to the brakes, and will often brake earlier than you want to, slowing you down too much. Again, switching this off will help you go faster, and you can still keep the anti-lock brakes on if you want. Pit assist and pit release assist are interesting ones, as you may gain an advantage by leaving them on. In short, pit assist will stop you from getting penalties from entering the pit lane too quickly, and pit release assist will automatically release you once you've done your pit stop and stop you getting penalties on pit exit. ERS management is another one you might want to remove, as it automatically handles your battery deployment during a race. A simple way to manage ERS is to only use it at the start of long straights, before switching it off at high speed. That way you get the speed boost it provides without draining it too much too early. The remaining assists are a little trickier to master, but also give you the biggest boosts in performance, so let's start with the one I recommend turning off first. Manual gears is the first of the major assists I would recommend you try turning off, as it gives you more fine control over your pace through corners. Upshifting is rather easy. You wait for the shift lights to appear in your display, and once they reach the gear number, you're at the best point to shift up. This is the ideal shift point for most cars, and you'll quickly learn to do this without thinking. For downshifting, you want to pay attention to the noise the engine makes and shift down when it sounds low. Normally, this is just after the shift lights are no longer lit up. Once you're comfortable with the basics, you can now try techniques such as short shifting and engine braking. Short shifting is when you deliberately shift up gears early, long before the shift lights are lit up. This is handy out of slow corners or in the rain, especially if you drive without traction control. Engine braking, on the other hand, is where you shift down a few gears very quickly, normally at the start of a braking zone. This helps you slow down a little quicker and brake later as a result. To do this, quickly shift down 2 or 3 gears at the start of a corner, before slowly going down the rest of the gears to your desired speed. Using manual gears will take some practice, but over time feel natural, and the extra control you have over your car's speed and rotation will make a big difference to your performance. Next up, we have ABS, the anti-lock braking system. This detects when your wheels are about to lock up and automatically releases the brakes for a split second before applying them again. You can brake as hard as you can and still make the corner, although it does take slightly longer to slow the car down than it would without ABS enabled. When driving without ABS, you'll have to constantly feel the limit of the tyres and just how much pressure you can apply while slowing the car down. Ultimately, it comes down to a combination of 2 factors. You can brake harder at high speed than at low speed, and the more you turn the steering wheel, the less you should brake. Balancing both of these is tricky, but stick with it and after a few days, you'll get the hang of it. One quick tip here is to focus on braking in a straight line to begin with. Once you've got a feel for the brakes and develop the muscle memory, you can then try combining braking with turning for specific corners. While getting into corners is tricky, getting out of them is one of the most common difficulties I see players struggle with. Driving without traction control makes it much easier to spin the car, but at the same time also allows you to control your exit speed and rotation to a great degree. This extra control allows you to exit corners faster. The easiest way to do this is to gradually add more throttle out of a corner, instead of putting it all down in one go. Much like with ABS, you will need to develop a feel for the limit of grip, although it's a little easier to do that than it is under braking. When the car begins to slide too much, gently back off the throttle and turn the car to straighten it up, and then drop more power down again. In most scenarios, you don't want to go full throttle until you're almost entirely straight. One more assist to consider switching off is the dynamic racing line. While this may seem simple in theory, it challenges you on a different level to the other assists, as it's not the car you need to learn, but the tracks themselves. To help with this, it's best to break down each corner into simple components. First, you have the braking phase. This normally starts around the 100 meter board with your car on the outside line. Brake in a straight line and bring the car down to the right speed before turning in. During the turn-in phase, you'll be looking to bring the car from the outside line towards the inside line, clipping the apex at the middle of the turn. As you near the apex, cast your eye beyond the apex and get a sense for where the car is going to end up. In most scenarios, you want the car on the outside line again so that you can get a faster exit. As you pass the apex, you begin the exit phase of the corner, gradually adding power and straightening the car up again before going full speed. While corners come in many shapes and sizes, this is the basic principle behind each. Over time, you'll begin to identify the right approach for every corner in order to get the best lap times. For more detailed analysis, check out the guides on screen now, and I wish you the best of luck in your next race.